Hey everybody, hello from Delphi, Greece. This is an absolutely gorgeous place if you've never been. We are situated about 2.5 hours from Athens, the capital of Greece, in the southern part of central mainland Greece, just across from the Peloponnese. If you've never made it here before, I highly recommend it. It did take me a while to get here myself. This is my 14th trip to Greece, and I've waited to come here my entire life, but was finally able to make it here today, 2023. As you can see behind me, there is the altar of Apollo. This entire site, this entire shrine, was dedicated to the god Apollo. He was the patron saint of Delphi, or Delphus as we say in Greek. And as we know, he was the god of music and light. Below me, to the left and the right behind me, are the various treasuries from Greek city-states, following any kind of war campaigns that they engaged in. Whenever they won, they would take 1/10 of the plunder that they had taken from their enemy, and they would deposit it into their city-state treasuries below. The Athenians had theirs, the Arcadians had theirs. There were even smaller Aegean islands that had their treasuries as well, from Sikinos and Serifos, and just a really amazing place, and it's really survived a lot through the millennium as far as weather, elements, war, what have you. But it is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and definitely worth the trip here. The Greeks were really conscious about building their sacred places in some of the most pristine places in Greece. And even without the historical context here, this is probably one of the most beautiful places that I've been to. We're high up in the mountains, and as you can see the scenery behind me, it's astounding. The site, of course, is known for the oracle or the oracles who were formerly employed here. Contrary to popular belief, there was never just one oracle, who were always females, but there was rather a series of them over the years. They would work there for months, for years, what have you, and then eventually they were retired, they were replaced. Again, they were all priestesses of Apollo, and they all supposedly had the gift of prophecy. So when they were seen by everybody from common folk to generals to kings, queens, foreign emperors, Roman emperors were here, Alexander the Great was here. They would sometimes speak in gibberish, sometimes they would speak very clearly, sometimes they would speak with a high degree of ambiguity. The oracles would go into almost like a hypnotic, kind of a hallucinogenic state, which cannot be explained by anybody. They thought that they were communing directly with Apollo. There were some excavations that happened here in the 1800s by a French team, which came, I want to say 1870s, I believe. But they had found that in the temple where the oracle sat, there were actually vents which came out of the earth, and fumes, toxic fumes would come out, which they think they very likely attributed to the oracle acting like in a kind of a delusional state. When I mentioned that they sometimes spoke with a high degree of ambiguity, one perfect example is King Croesus. King Croesus was the Lydian king in Asia Minor, and he had come to consult the oracle as to whether or not he should invade Persia. And the response which he received from the oracle was that if he were to invade Persia, he would destroy a great army. He took that to mean a blessing that he would be victorious, so he did in fact invade Persia. But sadly, the army which he destroyed was his own. He lost, and he lost quite handily. Another famous story from antiquity is when Alexander the Great also visited here. He came with his generals. He came with almost his entire army behind him, and he wanted advice on what may or may not happen prior to his invasion of Persia as well. And he came up here on the back of his horse Bucephalos, and when he sought out her attendant to ask to see her, the attendant told Alexander the Great, again with his entire army behind him, that she was not taking visitors that day. She just wasn't in the mood to see anybody. So completely incensed and probably a little ticked off, he jumped off of his horse. He went and he found her in her house. He dragged her outside. He brought her into the temple, and he said, okay, now start prophesying. And when he did this, she had never been treated or manhandled like this by anybody before, and she looked at him and she said, my son, you are indeed the greatest. He did subsequently go into Persia. He was victorious. He never lost a battle. And one can't help but wonder if he had the oracle's words in the back of his mind when he would attack and conquer other countries, Egypt, the Near East, Persia, India, etc. Again, just a really beautiful place here. I highly recommend it if you could ever make it here. I would recommend probably coming late in the day as we did. In fact, today it was so hot we came around 1 o'clock. They had closed it from noon to 5 just because the heat was so overwhelming. So you come here in the evening like this, there are a lot fewer people, or you come really early in the morning, about 8 o'clock, I believe they open. But I'd recommend coming in the evening. And if you ever do make it up here, enjoy Delphi and enjoy your trip to Greece. And please subscribe to me on my YouTube channel at Herodotus Reborn. And we'll see you on the next one.